morning, Quilt Roadies. Thank you for stopping by. I am back home and my well is filled, absolutely filled. As you know, if you just arrived, if you're new to Quilt Roadies, I spent the last week at a quilt retreat with some friends, and it was on the other side of the mountain. I mean, I can't say enough about this group of women. It's unusual. It is unusual in terms of that we have known each other for, gosh, since the early 90s. We work together. We are a group of nurses and doctors. We have also, you know, as with any group, there's people that come and go within a group, but the core group has maintained itself. We also have a sister of one of the nurses that comes regularly, and we have the aunt of one of the nurses that comes regularly. And so our group has evolved, as with all things in life. As families evolve, our group is a family and it has evolved. But the basic part of this relationship is that it is, we've seen the highs and lows of each other's lives. We've seen each other through illnesses, deaths, divorces, marriages, children growing up, grandchildren. So it is, it's unusual in that way. And so it's a blessing in my life, and it's an absolute blessing in my life. The house was chosen by one of our group members, and and we fell in love with it. We absolutely fell in love with it. And gee, I don't know where he'll insert photos, but there will be photos or video of the surrounding area. But we were in the Sun River, Oregon, which is a community that is outside of Bend, Oregon. We were there right on the river. There were blue herons, geese, ducks, squirrels, bunnies. You could see that deer had walked through, and I do believe there was even a Sasquatch. Yeah, but it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. It was fun to see what everybody was working on. It was fun and heartwarming and heartbreaking, all rolled up into one, kind of like a giant family reunion where we got to catch up on each other's families, and we got to, you know, it's kind of like the burden of being a parent or a grandparent, the burden we as individuals carry. We got to have that lifted a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. It's like suddenly we didn't have to carry it by ourselves. We got to have the support, and the burden or the joys were lifted and shared, and there is no other. I can't even explain it. You come away lighter than when you arrived. That's all I can say. You come away lighter than when you arrived. I chose to only bring handwork, which is now going to be my, I say this, but I could change my mind on a dime. But I am going to make my retreats handwork retreats because I felt very satisfied. I did not get to everything I took because you guys saw that suitcase. It was overwhelmingly full. And that's just a fraction of the handwork that I have going. But I enjoyed it because it was so relaxing. It was I didn't have to think. I know, doesn't that sound weird? But I have a very, very busy brain. It's, you know, it's constantly. I drove my parents crazy because I wouldn't want to nap. I would always be the last one to fall asleep because I was afraid to miss something. It drove my dad insane. And I was an early riser, and I'm still an early riser. And because of the way my world functions inside here, it kind of reminds me of Men in Black. You know, Men in Black, where they open up that locker at a train or bus station and there's this whole little city in there. That's my brain. It's going. And so I'm the perfect, my girlfriend Robin is the perfect roommate for me because we function almost on the same time clock. So we're up at 5 in the morning. I mean, rarely did we get past 5, and we creep downstairs. Oh, I almost fell down. I did fall down a step. But let me tell you, I'll tell you that story. But we go downstairs, she'd make coffee, and we'd start sewing, and then slowly, an hour or two later, others of our girlfriends would wake up and come out, and the world opened up. You don't realize, I mean, we do all realize, but in some ways you don't realize how much we have missed the last 2 years until it's gifted to you on a plate. And then it's like, oh, I never want to go back. I never want to go back. But one day, talking to you about my fall, one day, so we were upstairs, and the stairway goes down and then does a landing and goes down to the main area. So we were trying to be really quiet because in reality, we are the earliest risers and we don't want to wake everybody up. And so Robin was using her phone as the light to see the stairs. And when I was just before the landing, the first landing before going down, the light went off and I missed the step. And the only thing that kept me from falling down the flight, the next flight, was that I missed the step, hit the wall, and grabbed out at railing. And so I just hit this side of my head on the wall. Luckily, I didn't punch through the drywall or we would have had to fix something. I hit this side of my shoulder. I have a little bit of a lump back here and my hip. But with all this padding, that's what saved me, and the railing and the wall. But we at this age can't afford to fall down. We can't afford to fall. And you know, I'm a fall down person, but now I'm really, really careful. Yeah, so where was I? Oh, well, when I arrived, I drove over. I went past Mount Hood, and the day I drove over, it was a glorious day. It had snowed the couple days before, but the road was clear. There was just snow on the sides, and I stopped. I drove directly to Sisters, Oregon, and I visited with my girlfriend Kathleen to catch up. And just, you know, Kathleen and I talk regularly because we're book people, and so a lot of times we will we try to meet once a month and just talk about books and update on life. But it was so wonderful to see her in person, and so I stopped by her house, and I you know, in just to be in her company was wonderful. And then after I saw her, you know, I stopped by our mailbox in Sisters and made sure everything was okay, picked up mail there. And then I went to, then I went to pick up 2 quilts that my long arm, the gal who's been long arm quilting for me since I started quilting, when I don't quilt my own, generally Sandy Lakowski at the Quilt Basket in Bend is where I drop my quilts off, and she had gotten both of them done, and so I picked those up, and just, she did a fantastic job, and I will show you those in a minute. After that, what did I do? Well, eventually I ended up at my girlfriend Robin's house, and I stayed overnight, and then the next morning was we were going to check into our retreat house, but first we went to So Many Quilts in Bend because it was their last weekend of being opened, and yes, they are closed now, and it was just you know, it's a loss to the community because they had a certain aesthetic or genre that was different than the other 2 quilt shops in the area. So to come to Central Oregon and have this wide variety of choices was absolutely wonderful. So it was bittersweet. It was bittersweet. But I did go there and I did do some purchasing. I'll show you here. I bought one of Bonnie Sullivan's All Through the Night kits because I just loved it. Everything was 50% off too, so it was very difficult to maintain. But here's that sweet. It's a pre-printed, and then you apply the wool on top of it. So I know I'm going to do that. And then as far as fabric, I bought a yard each of these, and I love words. So I bought a yard of this, and it says things like beauty, everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. You know, dream big, be grateful, give love, and laugh lots. And that fabric, let's see, does it say on here? Did I get a piece that says what it is? Wilmington Prints. That is from Wilmington Prints. And naturally, they always had the best Halloween. I just love things with words on it. So I saw this print, so I bought a yard of that. And this print is by Timeless Treasures. So if you're looking for that, I loved this one. This one has all these plants like foxglove, fairy smoke, sage, willow, angelica, maidenhair. It's really cool. It's really cool. And this one, none other than Meg Hockey of Crabapple Hill. And then when I was standing in line, my girlfriend Irene, who we ran into there with Julie, they're part of our Fabric Stalker group, she had this bolt in her hand, and I said, I need some of that. And so we shared the bolt. And, oh, I gotta stop. Hold on. Sorry for that. Got to talk to my daughter-in-law. So this had all kinds of alphabets on it. And it's by Letterpress. I just love that, Letterpress. I've never, now that's a fabric designer that I'm not really familiar with. And then I got 2 yards of fabric for pillowcases, because, you know, we're on the pillowcase hunt. And I don't know, what's not to love about sloths? And this is Timeless Treasures. And we have had the best time with our chipmunks and squirrels. And this is another, I bought another pillowcase because, you know, I'm doing 1 pillowcase a month for 12 months, and then by December I'll have pillowcase choices for everybody that I give pillowcases to. And this one is Henry Glass. Isn't that cute? While I was gone, my So Yeah box came. I belong to, currently am part of the box of the month. And it's always a fun surprise. It had this beautiful little sticker in it. And then the information on getting a quilt. It had a fat quarter table runner pattern. And I am not a batik person. I'm not a batik person. I don't own any batiks. I'm whispering because it's kind of like, it, you know, people might judge you for that. I made one batik quilt for my nephew, and it was a kit, so I didn't pre-wash the fabrics, because, you know, in a kit they're already kind of giving you a certain yardage, and squares were all the basic kit. And so by the time I finished that kit, the process of the batiks, whatever the fumes, the dyes, whatever, I had asthma and the skin was peeling off my fingers. And now this is back in the 90s. But since that point, now several, I would say all of the rest of the Fabric Stalkers are batik people. So one day we got together and I put all of my batiks in a circle, and we did a cakewalk, you know, where you'd stop and then you get to pick one, and I got rid of every batik I own. So this little kit is, it's adorable pattern. It says, create this table mat using the fat quarter provided. So they gave me a fat quarter of batik, and then there's this pattern. And I am giving this away. So if you would like to have this fat quarter and the pattern in the comments, just leave the word batik in the comments, and this will be coming to one of you. Yes. But look at these. Now they always include an Aurifil thread. No, there's no dollar in it. And then look at these beautiful Stonehenge. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So that came while I was gone. It's kind of a gift I give myself every month, you know, when it arrives. It's so sweet. Just a surprise. So what did I do? What happened on retreat? Okay, first of all, a lot of times what happens at retreat stays at retreat. But I have to show you. One of the girls, Jane, made napkins for all of us. You know, sets of napkins. And we could pick them out. And so I chose 2 sets. She has a serger. It makes me want to get a serger, because I just zigzag my napkins, and the thread from laundering, the thread's coming loose. But this looks so professional. But here's the set of napkins, 4. Aren't they beautiful? And then this set here. It's a little country set. So that was a sweet surprise. And she said it was a way for her to decrease her holiday stash. Yeah, holiday stash. I also, the things I got done, I was quite pleased. there were some projects I took that I didn't even get to touch. That's true. But I felt very accomplished. And I think it's because, you know, when you only bring handwork, you don't have all that setting up, or you don't have to do a lot of cutting. We have learned over the years, if you're going to retreat and you're given the opportunity, pre-cut before you arrive. So all you're arriving with is a pre-cut kit, and you just sew. That's a tip for all of you. But not bringing a machine allowed me to sit quieter. I am not a good sit in one spot person, but this house was so extraordinary that where I sat, I could see the river. And when I needed to, I could get up and go out the door and go for a walk along the river. It was spectacular, let me just say. So I tacked the binding down on this table runner. Isn't that an adorable? And it's just 5-inch squares. I don't know if I even used a pattern for this, because it's just a charm pack of 5-inch squares. But isn't it adorable? So I got that binding tacked down. So that's ready for being either for me to use or a Christmas gift, because I just think it's so cute. I tacked down the binding of my mini tumbler, so that's a finish. And I had a mini tumbler ruler, and I just cut out no pattern. This had no pattern. I just cut out mini tumblers and put them together. Now I'm a big fan, as you know, Sashiko, big fan of Sashiko. So I had taken the Maple Leaf Table Runner by Sylvia Pippin Designs, and I'll put the link for her shop. But this is the poor thing is so bent up and crinkled. But this is the pattern, and I finished the Sashiko design inside and put the border on. Now in the pattern, this calls for a couple of Sashiko designs, one in this corner and one in this corner. And I had talked myself out of doing it, but after I got the border on, I thought, I think I'm gonna put a little leaf here and a little leaf in the corner down below. But isn't that gorgeous? And it was interesting. It was a different type. Most Sashiko uses Egyptian cotton thread, so it's very soft. It's just lovely. It's the kind you just want to rub on your face. But this thread was a different type of, it was more like a utilitarian. It felt rougher, of Japanese Sashiko thread, but I very much enjoyed it. I mean, look at that. I mean, just look at that. So I got that all done, and you say, yeah, but how did you put the binding if you didn't bring a machine? I mean, not the binding, the border. How did you get the border on if you didn't bring a machine? Well, as soon as Robin got up from her machine to do something, I sat down and used her machine. When we go on retreat, we've been doing these for so long. I mean, it was a laugh out loud, hope you have your depends on moments when we relived all of the houses that we have rented throughout Central Oregon and the Oregon coast. And some were disasters, and some were lovely, absolutely lovely. I think this is my favorite house. It wasn't the biggest house, but I think it was my favorite house because of the coziness of us being all in an area where we could hear each other talk, and the ability to just step outside and walk on a trail. And if you go on Airbnb or VRBO, there are hundreds of homes that you can see along the river. You can just put that in and say, I want a house on the river, and then you can just, you know. But it was a lovely house. But it was so fun to relive all the houses, because you're talking, you know, early 90s till now of retreats, and we used to do them like twice a year, at least twice a year. And so we've been in a lot of different houses. I have to show you this though. My girlfriend Dale, her youngest son and my oldest son were, you know, hang around buddies all through high school. They went to two different high schools, but because Dale and I were friends, the boys were friends. You know, they're the same age. And they went off to college together. Yeah, they both went to the Seattle Art Institute. And so Dale drove her son up to college, and we drove our son up to college, and we both cried all the way home. But she's a technique quilter. She loves piecing and technique, and she has that kind of brain. Besides being a nurse, her career in the last few years of her nursing career, she was actually an IT trainer to physicians and nurses on new medical records computer. So she has an extraordinary brain, on top of being an amazingly precise quilter. And everything that I'm not. So when she visits me, she'll allow me to go through all of my UFOs or kits, and if I don't think I'm gonna ever get to that, because I bought it on a whim, you know, that kind of thing where you're like, oh my God, I gotta have that, and then you realize, oh my God, I can't do this. She is, I don't think she has any limitations to her ability to figure out and complete something. So I know I'm rambling, but this is gonna be a long video because I things to show you. So she'll come over, and we'll sit on the floor, and I'll pull things out that in my stash that I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I want to, let alone if I can. And we discuss back and forth, you know, because usually she will do the top, but she's not doing the quilting, and she's not doing any needle turn applique. If it's hand stitching stuff, mostly I have to do that part of it, but the piecing is, well, I'm rambling on about this, but just know she's an extraordinary quilter. So when she was here last, I pulled out a couple of kits, and one was a small kit that I had gotten at a vendor mall, I remember, and I fell in love with it. But when I really looked at the guts of it, you know, because at a vendor mall you're seeing a finished project. So when I look at the guts of it, I just, oh. So I've had it for several years, not even opened. She took it home and she completed it, and she said it was a pain in the you-know-what. It was a total pain, but she did it. And she put the whole thing together, and it blows my mind because I absolutely love it. So here you, and I can't tell you who this is by. I don't know. I don't remember. It was years ago. But look at this. Now I have to explain this because on the surface it just looks like fusible applique and stuff. But if you can see in the background, it's a mosaic. Those are individual, like 3/8 inch squares that are fused to a background. And then when you get this whole bee motif on top of that, you put this tulle. It has a tulle over the top of it. You probably can't even tell. But and then you quilt it. You quilt that over the top of the tulle. Is that not the most adorable thing? And I felt so bad about how difficult, what a pain it was to do this, that I said, you know, if you want to just keep it, just keep it, just keep it. And she said, no, it needed to be in the Beehive. So it's come home. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like the best thing ever. So I got that. I worked on, it's kind of interesting, I worked on one of my, let me see if I can find this one, Primitive Gatherings. It's a block of the month from 2019. I know. If I wasn't okay with who I am, and that's what I encourage you all to really embrace who you are and accept, rather than self-judge and self-deprecate. I mean, if we were all the same, if we were all type A, if we could all finish everything we start, the world would be kind of boring. So embrace who you are. I'm saying that only because I don't want you to judge me for this. This is a block of the month from 2019. I fell in love with it. The original block of the month is entirely different, but the same. It was a block of the week, I think. Yeah, it was a block of the week. Same colorway, but it was too big. I knew that I wouldn't, I didn't want to quilt that big. So in 2019, Lisa came out with this Heirloom Rose urban wool block of the month, and I loved this. I just loved this. But it was languishing, and I decided that I wanted to give it some love and start it moving. And part of it was when I was packing. You might want to pause this, go to the bathroom, get yourself some. Your blood sugar's probably dropping. I'm rambling so much. But when I was looking for projects, I opened this box, and this box had all this Valdani that I ordered. Specifically, it was kitted for this project. And it's, I mean, I'm not using it in other projects because it's stuck in this box. So I need to kind of get the threads out of, you know what I mean, get the threads out. But it took me all one day. One day I worked on a block, and I finished one whole block. This took a day, but I did all of the stitching and got one block done. And so now I have 3 blocks finished, and this has become a not necessarily a priority, but I'm keeping it out because I'm going to get this done this year. And here's the block I had done previously. And another one that is done. So I have 3 blocks totally finished, and I have 6 to go. If I were to do a block a day, I'm talking 6 days to get all the blocks. It would take 6 days to get all the blocks done. But, yeah, so. This is going to be, I'm going to try for this to be a 2022 finish. Of course, our lives are going to be pretty busy this year. It's crazy. Right now they're building our fence. We're going to multi-generational cohabitate with my younger son. So it's going to be very busy around here while they are looking for a house. So it's going to be a wild time. Wild time in the Beehive. The other block of the month that I brought to retreat was Sashiko. It was my Sylvia Pippin, and although I am not making it in this format. I have a different idea. This was her perennial favorites block of the month on Sylvia Pippin's site, and it was all these gorgeous flowers. And I saw this finished at Robin's house. She has it hanging in her, in her house. But what I finished on this retreat was this block. Isn't that beautiful? So it's a combination of wool and Sashiko. Here's, I haven't totally finished this one, but here's another block. Aren't they gorgeous? And let's see, here's 2 more blocks that are not totally finished, but I've got the Sashiko in the part of the wool. So here's fuchsia. And there, isn't that gorgeous? So you can see that I love lots of different types of stitching, but it's a lot of handwork. So I have lots of handwork. Well, now I'm just going to show you the 2 quilts that I got back from Sandy, the longarm quilter, and then we'll hopefully G will include. There's just a lot of activity out there because the fence guys are working on our gates and fences. So pause and let me get set up to show you, okay? Okay, here we go. The quilts that I got back. Now I still have to attach binding and tack binding down, but here's one of the quilts, and this is Remember the Giver. And this is going to be part of my quilt group that's in Sisters, the Berries. We are going to have quilts at one of the homes. During Quilt Show Week, there is a program called Quilts in the Garden. And the theme this year is pollination. And so here, yeah, isn't that gorgeous? So it's all quilted, and I just have to get the binding. I don't know if you could see the back, but it's amazing. It's an amazing, Sandy is an extraordinary quilter. And then this was from So Yeah Quilts. It was a kit I bought called Gnome Love. If you remember in a previous video that I had it on my design wall. And Sandy quilted it with this one was an all over heart design. So, oh, it's a big quilt. It's a big quilt. So I have a binding to do on that one. Yeah. Well, thank you for hanging in there, and let's see how much more I can get done. I hope you guys get to go to retreat. I hope you. There is nothing better than getting together with your girlfriends. And don't judge yourself. Just do what you like to do. Love you guys. Take care. See you next time.